Good evening, and welcome to No Dumb Questions. I'm Dr. Steve Perry, your host, and I'm really excited this evening because we're going to have a conversation with some folks from our community. Some of you know I'm from Connecticut and I live in Connecticut, and it is easy to reflect on some of the national conversations that are going on. There's a war um, out in the out in Russia. Um, and with Russia, I should say. There are issues going on throughout the country, but I think we often miss the people behind some of our most important conversations. I say that because we see community activists and we don't understand that they're people. They're people who have lives outside of what you see publicly. They're fighting for their causes at the same time as trying to be people, mothers and fathers and boyfriends and girlfriends, friends, and for some of you, foes. It's easy to get caught up in the politics of the conversation and miss the people behind it. And tonight I am joined by two local activists who have their own story, their backstories. I think that's important because when you see someone fighting for a cause, I want you to understand that whether you agree with them or disagree with them, that they're a person. And in their personhood, you find out maybe why they fight. So I'm going to begin by introducing an activist who is a parent activist, which is his own challenge, both being a parent and an activist. She is the president of the Parents Union, which has its foothold here in Connecticut, but its tentacles throughout the United States of America. My sister, Gwen Samuel. Hey, sis.
Hey, my brother. So happy to see you on the No Dumb Questions because there's a lot of questions and they're not dumb, but for some reason they're treating parents like we dumb, and the ergo the problem. So thank you
Well,
for having me.
we're going to get to that. It's like, you're right. You're right. And then second up, brother who is the president of the NAACP in Stamford, Connecticut, a man who once is a retired firefighter, but that's not his story. We're going to get to know his backstory and what it is that still motivates him today, Brother Guy Fortt.
Dr. Steve, and it is a pleasure and an honor meeting you again. And thank you, Shonda, and nice meeting you, Miss Gwen. And I also have to say, Mr. Harold Clay, thank you very much for bringing me on and talking with Shonda. Nice meeting you. Happy to be here.
Well, we're excited to have this conversation. So it's going to go fast, folks, because we're going to get right down to it. A couple months back, Sister Samuel was in our waiting room, and we were preparing to have her on the show. And while she waited, her life was forever changed. We were preparing to have a conversation about how important it is for parents to be activists and what it is you need to do to make sure your child or children have access to a quality education. She's a mom and of two sons and a grandmother. So she has all the motivation in the world to fight the fight. But while she waited in our waiting room to be on No Dumb Questions, her life was changed when her second son lost his life. When you see Gwen fighting the fight, you are seeing a mother who has lost both of her sons. Some of you wonder what it would be like. Just the fear alone makes you keep your kids in the house and would make many of us stop going out. But you, Sister Gwen, persevere. How are you doing?
Many people say one day at a time, right? Which is what they say in life, every moment. But for me, after losing my first and second born son, the sons that made me mom, I just need to be very clear. The sons that made me a mom in the young days of my life when I was calling looking for love in all the wrong places, right? They were those sons that grew with me as I was trying to figure it out where I was going at mom. So this whole notion that you must be a perfect parent or there is some golden rule to parenting, I need to just let it be very clear. There is no golden manual. It's just living each day trying to be the best person you can be. Then when you bring children in, being the best parent that you can be. So I have 4 children, 3 boys, 1 girl, 1 daughter. And then, so I'm doing one moment at a time. That's all I can say. And I wish I could be, as I close, I wish I could just put my head in the sand and pretend I'm in some nightmare. But reality is reality. And it was a hard
How is
reality
it?
to face.
How is it that you are able to continue to get out and get up and fight for a cause of providing educational access for other people's children when you've lost 2 of your sons?
See, many don't know that my first 2 children were high school dropouts. Many don't know that I'm a first generation mom. I got my degree at 36. I was doing homework with my children at 33. My mama had to help me raise those boys because, like I said, I was trying to figure it out. But because dropping out wasn't an option, and I always wondered, so the guilt came in when I lost them because I wondered, like, oh God, maybe if I had gotten married, but no one proposed, but I had children. I was wondering, what did I do wrong? And their dad's wondering, what did I do wrong? And so I figure is I never want this to happen to my worst enemy. And we got some enemies if you was a black folk, and I don't wish it on them. But I just know that our children depend on us as adults to make informed and responsible decisions on their behalf. And part of that is education. And now one of my sons, I got a grandson. So I got 3 grandsons, boys, and their dad's no longer here. So giving up is not an option for me. There lies the challenge, trying to find that emotional balance, trying to stay in the fight, and making sure that parents are on their game right now for their babies. Because it's beyond just losing a child. What do we do when are we doing all that we can as parents to ensure our children have what they need to be productive citizens? So it's been hard, but giving up and not doing anything is not an option if you live in this country. So ergo, my challenge, trying to find that delicate balance.
But Fort, you had your own experience with tragedy. Uh, you had you were dating someone, and her ex-boyfriend came to the crib, and you figured he's a nice guy. Doesn't seem like he's too reckless with his speech. Then what happened?
So I had the opportunity, and for years I blamed myself because I opened the door, and I learned a lot from just that experience. That you cannot always open the door for everyone, and that door could be your heart, that door could be your mind, that door could be physically a door. So, just to recap a little bit, I was 23 at the time. The young lady I was dating at the time was brutally murdered on my birthday, um, in front of me, her mother, father, and her whole family. And it was just a learning lesson for all of us that was there because we all trusted situations, we all trusted circumstances, and we trusted him. I did not personally know him, but he seemed to be okay. And like I previously just stated, is that I opened that door. And for all the people that are listening, I will tell you, you cannot open the door for everyone. And again, that door could be your heart, your mind, or physically a door. And that's why I became a firefighter, to help save lives and change lives for the rest of my life.
You both have had tragedies and could at any given time see yourself as checking out. But in each of your cases, you found the tragedy as a point of inspiration. When yours is a recent situation, yours is a recent loss. And that recent loss, I mean, we're not even talking a year. How is it that you're able to make sense of what was an accident? Well, we'll call it an accident. I don't want to get into the legal parts of it, but an accident. How are you able to make sense of this?
See, there is no sense for this. When I lost my first son, Jamel, which is my second born, he was 24. No one's fault. God called him home. I'm still grappling with that. So when I was about to get to your show, I was looking forward to talking about that, trying to find a compartment for this, for the fight ahead, because the politics have gotten so ugly. It's one thing to have an accident. It's one thing to knowingly put your children in unsafe conditions. See, and so I was just grappling with that. And so then now I have grandchildren in play, and I have 3 black boys that are grandsons, and they don't have that guidance. And so because options wasn't an option for my younger, those two, the one who I lost, I'm like, now it's even more important to double down on ensuring these children have what they need. Because now I got to make sure my grandbabies have what they need to be productive citizens. My kids didn't go to traditional, and they started out at traditional schools. And then we had to end up using options like Job Corps. And then after, I say, for me, it's not even an option of not doing anything for children, because I still have kids in the game. But I will tell you this, even if I didn't have children in the game, I am a senior citizen. Well, going there. And
You
so
ain't hardly
investing
no
in the,
senior citizen.
I will take that. I will take that. I am 56. Let me go flex for y'all in the mirror. No,
Yeah, you ain't hardly a senior citizen. There's senior citizens looking at you like, man, what's she talking about?
but I'm older. And when you know better, you do better. So for me, it's investing in the young people, because I'm getting older. And I know 2 things they're going to be, either taxpayers or tax burdens. I like to get to the taxpayer, because the tax burden can lead to the prison system and increased crime. So I'm in it for the babies. Again, tomorrow could be a bunch of tears. Tonight was a bunch of tears, right? But at the end of the day, we got to do our part to make the world a better place. And that's just really what it is for me. If you don't want a problem with me, don't mess with children. If you do, expect that problem.
We know that's
But
a
it's not
problem.
easy.
We know that's a problem. So, Guy, you decided to get involved with NAACP. You decided to be a firefighter and give back to your community. Why give back to a community when you lost someone so dear to you? Why not turn your back on the community?
Well, I thought it was extremely important for me to. I've always been a giver in my heart. It tells me that my mother raised the 6 of us in our household, single parent household, to be a giver. But I thought it was important watching. Here I am, once again, a fatherless child, growing up all my life, and then witnessing a tragedy as such. I knew that there specifically were issues with Black males, and so I work with Black males. Not that I exclude women, young ladies, but I work and I have worked all my life with Black males. So I thought it was important, witnessing what I've gone through, witnessing growing up in the streets in the city of Stanford. I mean, Stanford is a new place now, considering um, what it looks like now. But growing up, it was rough, and we We walked this journey for a reason. I thought that becoming a firefighter was giving back to the young men. So I help young men today try to get into the fire service. Sports is a big component of my life. I have a son that was in the NFL, and I have a son that is on his way to the NFL. And so I've helped several young men, not only from a student athlete perspective, get into college, but also get to the league. So I thought it's important that a lot of these young men who don't have fathers like myself see an image or a mentoring concept or a mentoring brother that can be able to help them out get to their next level in any genre of life that they're trying to position themselves. And that's what I do today, continuously, always.
It's fascinating that you both have turned tragedy into triumph, that you found a way to engage on a larger scale. Um, those people who are in the middle of a tragedy, I'm going to start with you, Gwen. Talk us through the nights when you're lying in bed and you can't fall asleep. And then finally you do, and what gets you out of bed?
Well, those days, there are days I can get out the bed, and then there's days that the bed just keeps me there. But I try to make it a positive thing to regroup. And sadly, I wish I could stay in the bed a little longer. But the politics is so crazy right now. That's the challenge for me. Part of me just wants to say, okay, my counselors, the grief counselors, take a pause, take a break. And it's easier said than done if you're a fan of humanity. I'm a big fan of humanity. I believe in my people and all people if we do right by children. And so it makes it hard. So sometimes I just can't get out of bed. Yesterday I didn't get out the bed. I might as well be honest. There were days my brother, I'm gonna be honest, he would say he was gonna kick in the door because I didn't answer the phone or the bed. So I had to remember that I am loved. And if I never thought I was loved, when the pouring out of support, I can literally say across the globe, there were some folk I'm like, I think they from other countries said, we've seen you in this fight. You don't know me, but just know you are loved. And so I just want parents to think of this, that I've lost my kids physically, and yes, they were older children, but they got younger minors that need support. And so I say to parents, sometimes Black moms are crying now, right? And they haven't lost their children, but they're afraid to lose them, right? The tears of a Black mom is a serious tear, because we're Black moms in a space that don't value Black people, period. And then you got Black males. So to answer that question, there are days I can't get out. There are days I do get out. I thank God for the supports. But at the end of the day, you got to stay in the fight. And that's the
You,
challenge for me, staying in the fight despite my emotions, but still giving myself grace to grieve.
for you, it sounds like it's a juxtaposition of the yours is not just a job, it's a calling. You feel called to
Yes,
support our community, more specifically through fighting for school choice, creating opportunities for parents to select the schools that are best for them so their children can be their level best. And and then the support that comes from that. There's a interesting juxtaposition here
yes.
because very easily people could say that's what you do publicly, but how do you feel privately? And what I've heard you say is that you formed a family even with people who you don't know from across the globe, who when you were down, those folks have come forward and said, hey sis, we got you, let us know, and that those things help you make it. So the investment that you made in our community is repaying with dividends. Is that fair to say?
That is very much fair to say. And the reason why it's important, because I would wonder, and again, I'm an everyday mom like everyone else. I'm wondering, imagine if I didn't have those supports. But I'm out here in the fight, right? I'm doing my part. And I can only imagine what it would be like to have weathered this storm alone. It's one thing to have family support. And then there's another thing to have extended family support. And there's another to have support within that support. So, and it made the difference. It helped me access resources. So not just family supports. Like what do you need, sis? Right? Do you need your house clean, sis? Right? We seen that. I had people like willing to travel. I had a sister drive from Philadelphia and said, if you don't answer this phone, I'm gonna be at your door. But do you know how that made the difference of staying in the bed and thinking you alone, weathering this? No, and I knew God got me. But God got me and had me in such a way that He let me know that the feelings that I felt alone in this fight. My kids were like, "You helping other people, and who helping you, Mom?" These are my children, right? Angry at the world. I was angry at the world, but the world came through for me, right? And it instilled hope, and that's why I'm in the fight, because it showed hope through the love.
Your investment in the community paid dividends. You
Yes.
didn't know that you were caught up in the fight itself. You were looking at what your adversaries were doing and how they were trying to stop your fight, not recognizing that you were building an army of support behind you. Brother Fortt, you have sons. Talk to us about how you didn't just focus on your own two kids. Because if all you did was raise yours, then people would be like, that's dope. Good on you, you know. But you said, it's not enough for me to do right by mine. I got to do right by mine as a member of our community. What is it that inspired you to take that approach?
Well, I noticed that, just to give you a little background. So one of my sons, I too have three sons and a daughter, and my second oldest son was the Kyrie Fortt was the number two outside linebacker in the nation coming out of high school. He had 52 scholarships going into college, and while he was in college, he had 52. He could have went to any college in the nation. He went to Penn State, became semifinalist for the Buckus Award, got drafted in the fourth round. But prior to all of that, I knew, because of my personal experience, I knew without a father that there were a lot of young black males who were in my position. See, I didn't grow up like my son. When my father passed away and he wasn't in my life, I told him the greatest job that he has ever done was not being my life, because he made me a brilliant father. He made me a father of many, and that's to this day I live by that. So when my son was being recruited by everyone, I would see other young black males who I thought had ability, whether it was Division One, Division Two, Division One AA, Division Three. I would pack a carload of these young black males into a vehicle with me. Although the colleges were there to see my son, I would also push these other young black males to the college coaches and say, "Hey, what do you think about this young brother right here? His academics are on point. He is this, he is that," and a lot of them got opportunities. Some of the guys that got great opportunities were like a gentleman by the name of John Jenkins, who had at the time in high school a 1.5 GPA. I saw him. I grabbed him. He was 6'3", 260-pound defensive tackle. Got him over to a junior college. He went to this junior college called Mississippi Gulf Coast. From there, he's raised his GPA up to 3.0. Left there and had 20 scholarships. Went to the University of Georgia and got drafted in the third round by the New Orleans Saints. That is transformation. That is enlightening. That is bringing someone from nothingness who had potential into greatness. And that's what I position myself to make sure that these young men get to their next level.
Each of you have found a way to go from darkness to light. You've taken the tragedies in your lives and used them as a platform to shine, to create opportunities for others. And in both of your cases, the others are young people. You invest in young people, understanding that. I'm sorry, I'm not getting feedback. You invest in young people, understanding that when you do that, you create opportunities for the future. But let's be honest, the process of doing that means taking time out of your own family's lives. Gwen, how did you and do you justify not being home at night, leaving on the weekends, having other people's kids in the car? Go. In your case, you work with moms in large part. What folks don't know, Gwen Samuels is, as I said, she's the president of the Parents Union. And most of the folks that she works with are parents, just like she is. Some are coupled, but most are single. and their parents who want to fight for their children to have access to a quality education. So she gives them voice and in many cases courage. But in order to do that, you can't be home. Even in the Zoom era, you can't be home. How is it that you communicate your calling to your own family?
I learned that the hard way. This death of my last son, Quentin, for some reason, it divided us. I thought and when I spoke to my son, who's now 23, just got out of the Marine Corps, we had a candid discussion about my advocacy that they never shared with me before. And they were saying in the beginning, they resented me for it. But I didn't even know I was going to be an advocate. I started out with pedestrian safety for children, just trying to get kids across highway ramps in Meriden, right? People don't know that. They think I started out with ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. I said, the babies can't get there and safe. What letters you going to teach them, right? And so once I got through that, but I had no one to teach me how to balance the world. I knew that I had Black boys, and I knew that our Black boys were being killed. And my son says, Mommy, all you did was yell at us. It was the fear of you leaving the house every day in our city that made me yell. Maybe there was a better way, but you don't know what you don't know. And so so we had to learn this together. When I had to apologize to my kids, but when I hear them speak, when I hear them their drive for success, when I hear that they can able to take a situation and advocate and articulate critical thinking about and analyze a situation, I'm okay with that sacrifice. But I also have to respect that they were also human beings. They were little children dependent on me to be home in a timely manner, to make sure dinner was on the table. But there were days I barely had lights. No one knew that. But I figured it out working with the community. So I say it wasn't even easy juggling it. And if I could have done some things different, the only thing I would have done was sat them down more and explain my calling. But I was doing it for them. But in the scope of doing the advocacy for them, I learned I was helping other parents. Like, if she can do it with no lights and limited money, I could do it too. Right? So it was mixed feeling. I wish you could say it was all kumbaya. It wasn't. It was a lot of family dysfunction, me trying to do this calling. But God gave me the wisdom, the people, the supports, and I was able to do it effectively. So to answer that question, it wasn't a cakewalk. But now my kids thank me for it, but I also had to apologize for it at the same time.
It is a challenge, right? We're not home because we're out hoping to make the community a better place. When those people are sending slinging arrows in your direction, they don't understand that their children at home who are more upset with you than this opponent of your political agenda will ever be. They're kids who want you to read to them tonight, and your behind is out arguing with somebody who's trying to stop you from helping not your children, because your kids have you at home. They know, the school knows if Gwen Samuel's calling, they better be tight and right. The same is true with you, Brother Fortt. How is it that you have communicated your calling to your family?
I think for me, I think the process was getting them involved. I included them in the process. My wife is a physician here in town, so I would do, like, for instance, I would be able to have there are a lot of young Black males on the football team that didn't have insurance. So I would go to my wife and say, hey, these guys don't have insurance. The families don't have the financing. Is it okay if you give them a physical so that they can play football? When it came to just recently, COVID, a lot of parents and families didn't have insurance. We did COVID testing. We probably had the number one massive COVID testing here in the city of Stanford. We did over 500 families, and just helping these young families basically, get the COVID testing in the beginning, the earlier stages. Another thing that we just recently did as a family, so I'm more inclusive with the family. I got my daughter who's on her way to medical school. I got her involved in the process of helping out with COVID testing. When the mass distribution back in 2020 was happening, I put together a major, massive mask distribution where I got 28,000 masks distributed to 2,600 26 apartment buildings, actually given each apartment, which was 2,800 apartments, 10 masks per family. So I'm more of an inclusive family person, where I would bring my family into some of the um, structures that I'm doing or the processes that I'm doing. And then I would collaborate with the city of Stanford, the fire department, the police department, to have these masks, let's just say, distributed to all 26 apartment buildings, things of that nature.
You, first of all, I want to, I knew the time would fly, but I want to begin by thanking you both. I want to thank you for your investment in the community, and I want to thank your families for sharing you with our community. As we come to a close, one of the things I think that's important is how you two came to the same place. Uh, Gwen, you recognize that in order for your children to understand and engage your calling, what they had to do was be included in it. And Guy, it sounds like you started there. You understood that if we do this as a family, if this is the family business, then I won't be out of the house. We'll be doing this together.
Exactly.
And the more I can include my family in my calling, the more my family won't see my calling as somehow working against them, but in fact something that we do. Whether they do it themselves, it's something that they will understand. I'm not off doing this despite you. I'm doing this because of you.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes.
I want to thank you both this evening for joining us. I know you both have ridiculous schedules, and that you took some time out to talk to us. It matters because I think that more people need to understand that the freedom fighters of our day are like the freedom fighters of days that have gone by. It is easy to romanticize the work of Dr. King and not realize that he was a father and a husband. It is easy to romanticize the work of Malcolm and not understand that he too was a father and a husband. Medgar, a father and husband. These are people who have for generations fought, and no one has ever taken a moment to say, hey, I wonder how their wife is doing. I wonder how their kids are doing. You know what? Let me send some meals over to the crib, because if this person's out here volunteering this much, they can't possibly be earning that much money doing that. Let me check in on her to make sure her lights are on.
Bang.
We look at folks like Sister Gwen in particular. I'll use you as an example, and we think, wow, how dope is it? She's from the hood, she's in the hood, she's fighting. Yeah, well, she's in the hood and fighting. She's still in the hood. Like, so what is that telling you? That's telling you there's not a lot of income coming in here. So just because she's out fighting, there's no income for fighting. In fact, that's a good way to lose income, is to get out there and start fighting and telling the story and fighting against the machine. So we can and do lose jobs, and in the
Fire
process,
and everything. They'll fire you and everything, brother. Trust me.
listen, I lost my job at Western University after running for office. So let's just be clear that I understand the fight, and I think what people don't understand is the backside complications of freedom fighting. When you're in college and you want to boycott something, there's no cost to that. They want you to do that. That makes college fun. But when your behind gets out of college and you start boycotting things, you could lose your job. It's not just the political impact, though, because some of the political impact we can understand. It's the personal impact when you come into the house and your kids are like, here we go again. So I want to thank you both and for joining me this evening, and I'll share a quick story as we part. I remember one time I was going away. I had my bags packed, and I brought my bag downstairs, and it was by the door. And I realized I'd forgotten something. So I ran out to the car. I started warming the car up, and I couldn't find my bag. I'm thinking, what the hell? Like, did I put my bag in the car? Where'd I put my bag? So I went to the car. Bag's not in the car. Wait, how was my bag not in the car? So I went back up into the bedroom. Bag's not in the bedroom. I'm thinking, I gotta go. I gotta go. I gotta catch a plane. I can't do this. Like, where is my bag? So I go back out to the car, come back into the house, go back. And I'm looking, I'm yelling, where's my bag? Like, where did my bag go? So I recognize I'm getting more and more elevated, and I just go, I go to my son's room and say goodnight to him, and there I found my bag. This fight that we fight is personal. Don't get it twisted. Don't think for a second that the work that we do isn't at a real personal cost. So I want to thank you both for your personal and professional commitment to our community. I want to thank all of you for joining us for No Dumb Questions. And keep in mind that I believe that the smartest person in the room is not the one with the most answers, but the one with the best questions. Y'all take it easy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.